Good day, and welcome to Conversations with God, narrated by yours truly, Carlos Head, where my only job is to share with you simple but practical principles and guidance in helping you to be better, to build better, with God and with truth at the forefront. And today I want to talk, have a conversation about the topic, right versus what's right. The right to versus what is actually right. Because many of cases I've discovered, and sometimes maybe even in my own life, where knowing that I have the right to do something will trump, what is actually right. And as we look around, there are some areas that I believe we get ourselves caught up into that creates chaos, that creates dysfunction, that creates problems in our lives because we will rely on what we have the right to do versus what's right. And for just a moment, I want to talk about a few areas where I believe that if we would employ an ideology that makes us focus more on what is right versus what we have the right to do, that it would help to improve our own lives. It would help to improve our homes. It would help to improve our communities. It would help to improve this world, because ultimately I think all of us want better. There are some areas in our lives where we feel as if we're doing exceptionally well, and then there's also areas where we know that and believe that things could be better. And I just believe that, you may not have to work on the things that are already good, but because we're all flawed individuals, because we're all striving to do better, to be better in certain instances, I just believe that there are principles and there are characteristics and there are truths that would help us to begin to align more with what is right and less from the perspective of what we have the right to do. Today's discussion, the right to versus what is right. And again, we live in a society where we recognize that we are endowed with certain rights that the government has endowed upon us, certain rights that God himself has endowed upon us. And many of us get caught in the trap of what we have the right to do versus what is right to do. And just looking at a few areas for a few moments, the first area that I believe that traps us as it relates to us moving to a place where we're doing more right than being consumed with what is right is the right to hate. Many of us believe that we have the right, if someone hates us, then we have the right to hate them back. It's just, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You hate me, then that gives me the right to, in turn, hate you. Well, I don't have to like you if you don't like me. It's not my responsibility to show you kindness if you're not willing to show me kindness. And we get into this back and forth in life where if I'm wrong, then I have the right to wrong you back. If you say something off-putting to me, then I have the right to say something off-putting to you. If you didn't want it said to you, then maybe you shouldn't have said it to me. Well, by you doing it, it conveys to me that you're saying that it's okay for me to do it back to you. So we get caught in these tricky areas where, if you hate me, then, I'll hate you. I don't have to like you. I don't have to deal with you. But again, just because we have the right to do something doesn't make it right. And again, we have the right to hate. We have the right to hate those that hate us. But what does that get us? Besides some weird sense that we've shown them, I've shown you that if you can do this to me, then I'll do it back to you. But besides that, what are we winning? How is that making us better? How is that improving situations if truly we are working to build better lives, if we're working to build better communities, if we're working to build a better world, then what are we getting when we return hate for hate? Besides, again, some weird sense that I can show you that if you can do it to me, then I can do it to you. But I just believe that it's with love and honey that we draw and we confound evil spirits. See, again, I'm no better than you if I'm going to return evil as it relates to you engaging in evil with me. Then as I've heard it said also, you walk up on two fools arguing and you can't tell which one is the smart one or which one is the fool, because both of them are acting in a manner that certainly isn't representative of elevating to a higher level. What do we get? And again, many of us, and I've been guilty too, well, I've got the right to do that. I've got the right to do that. But that doesn't necessarily make what we're doing right. And I just believe that if we're going to grow to another level, if we're going to become ultimately what God would have us to be, then we've got to understand that just because we have the right to doesn't always make it right. Because again, it's with love and honey that I draw thee. It's with love and honey, not hate for hate. Love and honey is how we confound evil and make those that are evil wonder, well, what is it about that person that allows them, even when they are persecuted, even when things aren't going, people are mistreating them, when people are doing all manner of evil to them, that allows them to still be able to stand up in a godly disposition and not return hate for hate, but return love for hate. See, it's understanding that just because we have the right to doesn't make it right. And it's our leaning to the side of what's right versus what we have the right to do that actually elevates us and helps us to become what God has created us to be. That our lights, see, because it's about our light shining. It's about people being able to see us in the midst of chaos and see a disposition that inspires them, that motivates them to be bigger and better in situations that they will encounter. You don't have to return hate for hate simply because you have the right to do it. Again, I listen to a lot of things, and I heard it also said that when others go low, we go high. And I'll augment that a little bit and say when others go low, we remain high. Because if we're already high, operating in love, operating in peace, then we don't have to go anywhere because we'll just remain consistently who we are. So if we're operating in love because that is the right thing to do, if we're operating in peace because that is the right thing to do, then we don't have to go anywhere when others go low. We can just maintain our disposition. So we don't have to return hate for hate just because we have the right to. Again, we have the right to say all manner of evil to and about others. We do. I can make my mouth say whatever I want to make my mouth say. And you can either listen to what I'm saying or you can decide you're not going to listen to it. But just because I have the right to speak evil, to say evil, to cast aspersions on people doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. And many of us get caught in this crazy place of, well, I got the right to. It's my mouth. I can say what I want to say. I'm big and bad enough to say what I want to say. I've got the right, and you don't have the right to check me. You don't have the right to say what I'm doing is right or let me be. Simply because you believe you have the right to. And certainly you do. Certainly you do. But does that make it right? And then you have to ask yourself, simply operating from the perspective of having the right versus what's right, what does that get you? What does it get you? Is it improving situations? Simply because you can make your mouth, you're big and bad enough to say whatever it is that you desire to say. And in most cases, it may not even be right or accurate what you're saying. Because you know how we get. You know, in anger, we just start saying all manner of things. And if we're mature enough, we'll come back, self-reflect, and then acknowledge that, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Okay. There's an area of growth. But if you just operate from the perspective that, well, I got the right to do it, I possess the right to do it, then there's going to be very little change in you because, again, it's not about what is right. It's about your having the right to do it. Look around and see what it's getting us. Having the right to say and to speak all manner of evil about people. What is it getting us? Look at our society. We're gripped now in anger and vitriol. Bursting at the seams. Well, busted apart, really, because we're not bursting anymore. We're already torn apart. On a crash course with human annihilation. We're on a crash course because we return hate for hate. We think just because I have the right to say and to speak all manner of evil, I can, and I can't be corrected. We're on a crash course to human annihilation because everybody is choosing now. Just look around. Just look around. I have the right to do that. Well, I have the right to do that. Well, I have the right to do that. And that has trumped what is right. But I just believe that we can be civil. We can be respectful of one another because that is right. Whether we have the right to or not, whether it's enacted in laws or not, we can operate civilly and respectfully among one another. We can do that. Understanding that it's okay to disagree, but we don't have to become disagreeable because we disagree about things. We can still be civil in our disagreements. We can still be respectful even when when we're not aligned with what we both believe. We can disagree without being disagreeable. But if you simply operate from the perspective that, well, I have the right to do what I want to do. I have the right to say what I want to say. I have the right to feel what I want to feel. And who are you to check me? Then we're on a crash course because we'll never cross the bridge from what we've got the right to do to actually what is right. Not only in those areas. I mean, just think about it. Jesus talked about life and death being in the power of our tongues. And he also said that every idle word, every mean-spirited word, every hateful word that we speak will we have to give an account for. So just because you have the right to say whatever you want to say doesn't make it right. And we're going to be held accountable for the things that we say. We're going to be held accountable for the things that we do. So I want you to think about that the next time you're ready to spew hate out of your mouth. I want you to think about that the next time you're ready to be mean in your interaction with one another and speak hateful words. Now, the good news is, in the same way that we've got to give an account for the mean-spirited, hateful, evil words that we speak, the things that we speak that are uplifting, that are positive, that are loving, that are peaceful, we've got to give an account for those things too. So it's not just one-sided. It's not just one-sided. And in addition to having to give an account for it, just think about your own home. Think about your own life. Think about your place of work. Think about the people that you interact with. And think about how your positivity, think about the words that are uplifting. Think about the words that are loving. Think about the words that are peaceful. Think about how they impact the environment. So we don't necessarily have to wait till we get to heaven and think from the perspective of God is judging us as it relates to whether we are accepted into heaven or not. No, those things allow us to change our current situations. And I just believe that since we've got to live in this world, why not create the best world, the best environments that we can create? And we don't do that simply by resting on the fact that we've got the right to do certain things. No, we have to ask ourselves, what is the right thing to do? What is the right thing to do in this area? What is the right thing to do? Again, men, women, boys, girls, we all have the right to cheat on our families. I can go out right now and decide that I'm going to sleep with a married woman. I can decide that I'm going to sleep with as many women as I want to. And you've got the right to do that too if that's what you decide to do. But does it make it right? Does it make it right to cheat on your family simply because you have the right to? You have to ask yourself, is the potential of permanently destroying the foundation of your family's trust worth your temporary satisfaction and your lust? You have to ask yourself these questions. Because again, if it's just about you having the right to do something, then it becomes difficult to cross over the bridge and recognize that just because I have the right to do it doesn't make it right. And you've got to begin to think long term, beloved, and not allow these little simple, temporary distractions to detour you or get you caught up from thinking long term. You got the right to do whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't break certain laws. But does it make it right? Does it build? Again, if we're talking about becoming better, building better, then we've got to make the transition from simply living based upon what we've got the right to do to crossing the bridge to what is the right thing to do. And I'm just saying, it's a sad state of affairs when you will allow one 15-minute encounter to destroy the entire trust in your family that represents long term. You're trading long-term longevity for something temporary. Simply because you've got the right to. Simply because you can justify why it may be the right thing to do. Well, if she hadn't have done this, if she had been doing more of this, if he had been standing up like he was supposed to, then I wouldn't have had a place to go and do those things. Well, he gave me the right. She gave me the right to do that. But is it right? And this is all I'm talking about. If we're going to be better, if we're going to build better, then we've got to do away with the fact that we can be justified in the fact that I've got the right to do it. See, because as it relates to elevation, if we're talking favor, if we're talking God, if we're talking source, then we've got to understand that we've got to be seen to be faithful over small things before we can be made ruler over big things. And God has said, I just want to see how you're going to interact in these small areas of your life before you start expecting me to deliver the big things in life. If you can't be faithful over the small things, then how can I trust you with the big things? And that deals with returning hate for hate. You're not ready to be elevated if you think that you've got to return hate for hate every time somebody does something to you that you don't. You're not ready to be elevated yet. If you think that it's acceptable because you've got the right, it's your mouth and you can say whatever you want. If you think that simply possessing a mouth and being an individual, it allows you to say whatever it is that you feel like you're big and bad enough to say, then you're not faithful over the small things. So stop expecting God to elevate you to the big things. He said, no, I got to see that you can be faithful over the small things before I can entrust the large things unto you. Small things. That's why they say the devil is in the details. It's in the detail. It's in the small things that we start in the first grade, then the second grade, then the third grade, and we continue to elevate. And the challenges get tougher the higher we get. And this is the same way. I've just got to see that that you're ready to matriculate. You're ready to be elevated. And if you can't be faithful over the small things, then beloved, I'm just here to say that not that permanently disqualifies you, but it just says that there's an area of growth. There's an area of needed growth in your life. And this applies to all of us. This applies to all of us. Say, but you gotta let me see that you can be faithful over the small things. Husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends. If you can't be faithful to her, then why should I put a spirit in her that causes her to give of herself? If you can't be faithful just to him, then why elevate him so that it benefits you? You gotta be faithful over the small things. You've got to be faithful over the small things. And again, it's not faithfulness if your justification for the things that you do simply rest upon you having the right to do it. It's not that's not the criteria for elevation. And we wonder why we're stagnated in so many areas. We wonder why we're struggling in so many areas. It's because we're looking at the big picture but neglecting the small details. Well, we're wondering why the big things aren't going the way that we would like them to be going, but it's the small details. And it's recognizing that just because you have the right to do it doesn't make it right, beloved. Doesn't make it right, beloved. Again, we've got the right to do all manner of things, to say all manner of things, to decide that we're going to choose hate over love, to choose violence over peace. We got the right to do that if we so desire to do those things. If we so desire to do those things. Again, we have the right, and I'm just trying to juxtapose these things so that we can begin to self-reflect, so that we can begin to self-analyze, so that we can begin to look inward and stop pointing the finger outward, so that we can begin to do the work internally. See, because I heard it say that if you can fix the inside of the man, his outside, it'll naturally just catch up. But many of us, we just want, we want the gloss from the outside, but don't want to do the work to fix the inside. Because it's easy to justify that I got the right to do it. I've got the right to do it. I've got the right to, they shouldn't have done it to me if they didn't want it done back to them. So if you go low, I can show you that I can go even lower. This has become our mindset. This is why chaos and dysfunction is all around us. Because it's not about what is right, it's about me having the right to. And again, we have the right, if we decide to lie, I can make my mouth say anything. If it's about me possessing the right to do it, I have the right to lie, and others have the right to not trust me because of my lies. It's not just Carlos, this is all of us. Again, we've got the right to do a lot of things. We've got the right to do a lot of things, but doesn't make it right. And if we want people to believe us without wondering, is he lying in this situation? Is she lying in this situation? Then we've got to do what is right and be honest with ourselves. Be honest with others. Be honest with God. And then we don't have to worry about people. Well, they tell the truth sometimes, but, I don't know this situation. I really don't know. We don't have to live our lives like that, beloved, is all I'm saying. That if we want to have better, then we've got to become better. If we want others to do better by us, then we've got to do better by others. And again, we've got the right to separate. We've got the right to do that. We've got the right to separate based on racial, based on political, and based on cultural differences. We've got the right to do that if we so choose. There is nothing that's written that says I have to live by a white person. There's nothing that's written that says I've got to live by a Republican. There's nothing in the law say that I have to live by any human label that I deem to be different from mine. It's not written in the law that I have to do that. I've got the right to choose to separate if I so desire to do. But then I ask you, look at what that has cost us. Just look around. Look around. And it's created chaos. It's created racial wars. It's created political unrest. It's created religious wars. It's created dangerous levels of tribalism. It's created xenophobia. It's created the Nazis. It's created white supremacists. It's created 9/11. It's created world wars. It's created the Civil War. It's created slavery. It's created Jim Crow. And it's created systematic racism and discrimination of black people in the United States of America. And other people around the world as well, including Palestinians in Israel. Simply because we've got the right to separate, we've got the right to mistreat, we've got the right to be hateful, we've got the right to speak evil upon others, simply because they're different. Simply because I've got the right to do that. I've got the right to do that. Again, the right thing to do is to realize that humanity's creator, the creator that created humans, not black humans, not white humans, not Republican humans, not Democrat humans, not heterosexual humans, not homosexual humans, not just Americans, but the creator that created human beings that have 46 chromosomes, that have a heart, that have lungs, that have eyes, that have humans. That creator. I've got to believe that he's not creating us thinking, let me see how much chaos, let me see how much war I can create in the world. Simply because I'm creating them with diversity. I've got to believe that that's not his intent. And he said, you got the right to do that. You got the right to create the chaos if that's what you want to do. You got the right to create dysfunction if that's what you want to do. You got the right to do it because I've given you free will, and I've created you individuals. That means that there are certain things that even if there are consequences, you can do them. There may be consequences, but that doesn't inhibit you from doing them if you so desire to do them. But just because you have the right to do it doesn't make it right, beloved. And I just believe that our Creator expects more of us. I just believe that he said that there is nothing. You have been created in my image and my likeness to exemplify the best of humanity, not the worst of humanity. You've got to understand that he created us like a rainbow. One people of diverse colors, of diverse talents, of diverse abilities, and of diverse physical features. But not to be separated, not to look at others with disdain, not to look at others with suspicion, not to feel as if, and again, have there been some things that have been perpetrated against people simply because others painted with a broad brush and decided that the whole of blacks should be enslaved? Absolutely. 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 And discrimination and prejudice extends far beyond just racial divides. You look around. Look at how the two major political parties in the United States are talk about one another, engage with one another. I mean, it's as if I'm a Republican and you're a Democrat, it's as if there is nothing good about you. And we've gotten into these places of weirdness that's destroying us inside out. Inside out. Because, again, the issues, the words, the actions that we engage in come from in the heart. And if it's evil in there, it's going to spew out. If there's evil, see, if there's no evil in here, it can't come out. You need to hear that. So then whenever you find yourself It's not, that slipped. That's not who I am. That's not who. Yeah. It may not encompass all of who you are, but yeah, it's gotten in there. And this is why it's coming out. But if you can begin to make the transition from what I've got the right to do to what is right, then what comes out is milk and honey. What comes out is love and mercy, peace and compassion, respect and tolerance, selflessness and generosity, understanding. If you can begin to get to the place where it's not necessarily about what I've got the right to do, but rather what is right, then we can begin to heal some of the hurts and the wounds that live in our homes, in our communities, in our schools, in America, and around the world. See, you got to understand that having the right doesn't make it right. See, people are walking around now talking about, I've got the right to not wear a mask. It's my right not to wear a mask. I've got the right to not wear a mask because not wearing a mask isn't a crime. It's legal if I decide that I'm not going to wear a mask. And people are really justifying not wearing a mask because somehow it infringes upon your rights. I've got the right to do it, whether it's right or not. I've got the right to do it, and because I've got the right to do it, it trumps whether or not it's right. But we should be concerned, beloved, not just about ourselves, but we should be concerned because we live in a communal, interactive, interconnected society. None of us live on an island. And even if we're not going to become deathly sick, if it's not going to take us out, just having the right to do it doesn't make it right. And we've got to come to a place that if we're going to build better, if we're going to be better, it has to be more about what is right than what I've got the right to do. We've gotten so selfish that our individual good, our individual rights are more important than the good of the whole. See, we've got to look beyond just our own individuality. And if it helps the community to be right, if it helps to save the community, if it helps to make the community better, if I've got to sacrifice temporarily, then what's right has to be bigger than what I've got the right to do. Is all I'm saying. I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just saying, generally speaking, not just as it relates to masks, but as it relates to our lives. And again, I don't live in a glass house, and I'm not throwing stones. I'm examining myself as well. And there are some things that maybe I need to look at. I try not to, simply because I have the right to do it, mistreat others, or just neglect others because I've got the right to do it. I try, I work at it. And this is all I'm saying. Look at your own life. Think about this thing from your own perspective. And just think, how often do I just justify bad behavior, bad words, bad thoughts, and just, cast it off that, well, I've got the right to do that. I've got the right to do that. Versus, was that the right thing to do? Was that really the right thing to do? Was that really the right thing to do? And this is all today's discussion is about. Not just opting to justify bad behavior because we've got the right to do it, but rather taking the next step and asking ourselves, is it the right thing to do? Again, we have the right, if we so desire, to not be our best selves and decide that we're going to live the low life, that we're going to live in mediocrity, that I'm just not going to rise to the level that I know that I'm capable of. We've got the right to do that. We do. Because these are our lives individually. We came into this world by ourselves as an individual. We'll leave this world by ourselves as an individual. And if it's your desire, because you got the right to not be your best, then that's your right. You got the right. But is it the right thing to do? Knowing that people are depending on you to be your best. Knowing that people are rooting for you to be your best. Knowing that your family is cheering for you to be your best. Knowing that your colleagues are needing you to be your best. Is it just because you've got the right to not be your best, is it the right thing to do? People are looking at you and they're hoping, because it'll empower them to be their best as well. They're saying, I'm just hoping that they'll rise to the best of who they are, because that'll inspire me to be the best of who I am. That'll give me the push to know that if they could do it, I can do it too. But we've got the right to. We've got the right to live the low life. We've got the right to waste our lives. We've got the right to do that if we so desire. But then we have to ask ourselves, who does that serve? What does that serve? Other than the enemy's plan. See, because his plan is to kill, to steal, and to destroy. He wants us to opt for mediocrity. He wants us to opt for the low life instead of opting for the high life. This is his desire. It's not personal. He may not even know your name, may not even be concerned with you, but he is concerned with whether you're going to let your light so shine before men that they might see your good works and glorify God, versus living the low life, celebrate his foolishness. Yeah, he wants your loyalty. Not because he's so concerned with you, not because he's in love with you, but because it's about him. See, this is where selfishness comes from. It's about me. It's about me. And the prince of selfishness is the enemy that comes to kill, steal, and destroy. This is why I talked about the foundation the other day being we and us, and not me and mine. See, because we and us builds the whole ship. Me and mine can see the ship falling and say, well, I'm good. They should have. Have you heard those words? Have you spoken those words? Well, I'm good. They should have did what they needed to do. That's their problem. No. We building, becoming better. Because again, if I got all the money in the world and I'm living amongst people that have nothing, well, at some point, either I'm going to have to be worried about them coming to take what I've got because they can't feed themselves, they're desperate. Versus if I create a situation where we're all elevating, then one, they think better about me. And two, they don't feel as if, I'm growing at their expense. At their expense. Now, I would have the right to do that. I would. Got the right to earn as much as I wanted. I have the right to not share with anybody if I so desire. But is it the right thing to do if we're talking about building communities, if we're talking about building homes, if we're talking about building a better world, a better existence for humanity? Is it the right thing to do? And this is all I'm saying, beloved. It's time for us to make the transition from what we've got the right to do to what is the right thing to do. And I want you to understand that when I talk about living the high life versus living the low life, living a purpose-filled life versus living a mediocre life, that's not necessarily about getting all the money in the world or getting more and more stuff. No. What I'm talking about is becoming more significant. Because what I've heard is that money follows significance. If you become significant in the marketplace, people will be drawn to you. They're drawn to us for our significance. how we can help them, not necessarily about what we have. So I'm not talking about just, equating the high life to more money and more stuff, but more significance, more positivity, more positive ways of positively impacting the lives of others, more value to the marketplace, more value to your family, more value to your community. Not because you can buy them everything, but because you decided that the right thing to do is to be concerned about the whole and not just the self. We've got the right to do a lot of things, beloved. People even had the right to own people as slaves. They had the legal right to do it. Systematically, the government gave them the right to do it. But I remember God reminded me that, beloved, you have to understand that you live under a bigger law, my law. And my law is predicated on doing the good unto others that you would have done unto you. Would you have wanted to be a slave? Would you have wanted to be marginalized? Would you have wanted to be, do you want to be discriminated against? You got the right to do it. You got the right to look at others and cast aspersions and ooh, look at them. We've got the right to do that. But he said, simply because you've got the right to doesn't make it right. Simply because you've got the right to do it doesn't make it right. And I'm looking for people that's willing to make the transition from what I've got the right to do to what is right. So I'm raising a new generation. I'm raising a generation that's not trying to hide behind their labels. That will stand up and say, yeah, there's some evil in me and I'm working to eradicate it. And with God's help, I'm going to get it out. I'm going to get it out because I live under a bigger law. That law instructs me and governs me to do what is right, not necessarily be justified in the fact that I have the right to do it. That's all I'm saying, beloved. Where do you live? Think about your own situations, wherever you may be. Where are you living? Are you living on the side of I've got the right to do it? Or are you living on the side of it's just the right thing to do? It's just the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. And if we're going to become better, if we're going to build better, we've got to understand that we don't have to push others down to be lifted up. Hear me, I'll say that again. We don't have to push others down to be lifted up. Nor do we have to hurt others to be helped. We reap what we sow. May not come today, but America is reaping what it has sown. In our homes, we're just reaping what we've sown. I remember Malcolm saying that the rooster is just coming home and it's crowing. We're reaping what we've sown. And we've thought that we've had to push others down to be elevated. God has said, no, that's your way. And I remember the prophet saying, there's a way that seemeth right among men that leads to destruction. Look around. It's our way. When our way becomes bigger than God's way because I've got the right to do it versus it being right, then we're headed for destruction. There's a way that seemeth right among men that leads to destruction. And it's when our way, us selfishness becomes the rule of the day, becomes the norm in society. This is where we've unfortunately become. This is just where we are today. But we don't have to stay here. We don't have to stay here. No, we don't have to stay here. We can make the transition. And it's one step at a time. Understanding that we still will fall. 7 times 7. Times 7. Times 7. Maybe not in the same area. No, maybe you get one area right and here comes another. And now you've got to deal with that, but that's growth. That's growth. That's life. That's the beauty of it. This is why we watch sports, because we like the challenge of it. We want to see two people competing again. Well, God is saying, I've created some challenges in life just inherently in creating you who you are, a flawed individual. And if you would step and be as fixated with those challenges as you are with looking at basketball or looking at football or looking at baseball or looking at soccer or looking at boxing or looking at MMA or looking at the challenges that these two people are engaging in, if you would take that same veracity about the challenges that you deal with, oh my God, there's nothing that you couldn't do. There's nowhere that you couldn't go. There's not anyone you couldn't impact. See, but you just got to get to a place where you can transition from what I've got the right to do to what is right. Again, we're better than what we've been exemplifying, beloved. We're collectively, we're better than this. Because we're created in the image of God. And although there's some bad that lives in us, there's so much good that lives in us. We've just got to be bold and courageous enough to allow that good to dwarf what's not so good in us. We're better than this. We're better than this. We're better than this. I know we are. But all of our interactions, just look around. And if it has produced the type of world that we can say, you know what, God has to be pleased with this, then you can say we're doing the right thing. We got it right. But as I look around at all the chaos and the dysfunction and the violence and the separation and the divisive doctrines that seems to pit God against himself, pit us against each other, I'm led to believe that we've missed the mark. We're not doing it right. We're not doing it right. But the good news is we don't have to stay here. We don't have to stay here, beloved. We can decide. We're not trees. We're not stuck anywhere. You might be in jail or in prison and physically you're contained in a box. But your mind and your spirit can be as free as you want it to be. You don't have to stay there, though you may physically be confined there. Wherever you are, wherever you hear these words, we can be better. It's in us. It's in us. We've just got to make the decision that what is right from now on is more important than the fact that I have the right. This is why we should be able to strip all the laws. Because if we've decided to be right, we don't need a law telling us that, hey, you need to be right. If I've already decided to be right, then I appreciate it governing others, but I don't need it. And this is what God is saying. This is why he gave us the Bible. He gave us the Quran. He gave us the Vedas. This is why he gave us the Tanakh. He said, because you wouldn't let it just live in here and let it govern you here, I had to create some laws to rein in your foolishness. And maybe if you saw it in the books, you would recognize that, oh, okay. Let that become a part of who I am. But we were created before the books were written. And God is creating us the same way he created those that lived before the books were written. And he said if it would live here, it would come out in the here. If it's in here, it'll come out in the here, which is the world. So we've just got to start to fortify what's in here with good, allowing it to replace what might not be so good in here so that we can extricate all the bad and then allow the good to come out, that others might see, that God might be glorified, that we might build better lives, that we might build better homes, that we might build better families, that we might build better communities, that we might build better cities and states and nations, that ultimately we build a better world. This is what it's all about, beloved. This is what it's all about. Deciding that what is right is more important than having the right. This is all I have for today. I hope that I've said something that at least makes you think, makes you reflect, makes you look back at your own life. Don't look at your spouse's life and oh yeah, they should have heard this because they do this and they do that and they do this and yeah, they needed to. No. It's not about your children. It's not about your employer. It's not about your free. It's about you. You being the change that you want to see in them. Let it start with you. Let it start with you. You be the spark that lights the fire. See, because forest fires, they start from one flick. They start from one flick that then becomes all consuming. And I'm just saying we can be the flick that starts a global fire for good. And that just is a result of deciding that what is right is more important than my rights. I love you. I thank you for giving me moments of your time today. I know that you could have been doing a whole lot of other things than sitting here sharing with me. But I appreciate you deciding that I provide some value, large or small, because my only goal is to be significant in helping you to be better, to build better, to have better, to have the life that you desire, to have the life that God desires for you in a way that is good, not just for you, but for all of us. For all of us. And if we get to that place, then we will have created heaven on earth. And then God can look down upon us and say, my beloved children, whom I'm well pleased with. This is the goal for all of us as individuals to become better, to grow into everything that God has created us to be. And that is awesome creations, created in his image and likeness, to let our light so shine before men, to be the salt of the earth. It's to season it. Season it. To be the salt of the earth. It's like the Dead Sea. And if you know anything about the Dead Sea, what is impossible to happen in the Dead Sea is for people to sink underwater. It's going to keep lifting. The salt contents in the water, it's just going to keep lifting those people that want to drown. It's just going to keep lifting them up. And this is who we are to be. This is why God didn't create us on an island. But he connected us with people so that we could be the salt, so that when we saw people potentially drowning, that salt in us would help to elevate them, help them to rise so that they not fall below the water level. Now, you can't make them walk on water. That ain't your responsibility. But you can help to keep them from going underwater. Salt of the earth. Light in darkness. You can be that light in darkness. We all possess the ability to be light in darkness. We've just got to decide. We've got to make a decision that what is right is more important than what I've got the right to or not to do. I love you, beloved. Be safe during this pandemic. Again, turn on the news and see that we're losing people, lots of people daily. And then let that be the motivation if it must be, that causes you to love harder, to call those that maybe you hadn't talked to, just to say, I was thinking about you. You know what? I don't want to stay on the phone a long time. I don't have a whole lot to talk about, but I was just thinking about you. I wanted to tell you I love you, and to be safe, and to enjoy the experience. Be the salt. Be the salt, because somebody needs you. Somebody needs you. Somebody's lonely right now, wanting somebody to give them a call, hoping that someone would give them a call. You be that person today. Give them a call. Give them a hug. Love them. Let them know that if no one else have said to them today that I love you, that you can be the person that adds light to their darkness. You can be the person that sprinkles salt, not on their wound, but up underneath them to help them to elevate. You can be the Dead Sea and keep those around you from sinking below the water level. You have the power. God has given you dominion. Just exercise your power, beloved. Exercise your dominion, beloved, because this is your season. This is your moment. Seize this moment. Carpe diem. Seize the moment. Seize the moment. Because we never know how many more of these moments that we're going to get. And I heard it once said that the greatest regret in life is not to get to the end and not have all the money in the world, but it's to get to the end and realize that you hadn't impacted the world. You're dying on full. Down empty. Down empty because you just poured out. Down empty with no regrets about the people that you could have impacted or should have impacted or should have made a difference in their lives. Down empty. But live on purpose. Live on fire. Live with energy. Live with love. Live in peace. Live with mercy. Live with compassion. Live with honesty. Live with tolerance. Live selflessly. Live with generosity. Live this day. Live. Just live. And in your living, decide that what is right is more important than your rights. I love you, and until next time, enjoy the remainder of your evening.